Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farba. Now, since Sunday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has been in Jordan, continuing a Middle East tour aimed at deepening defense cooperation amid rising regional tensions. Now, his visit follows newly signed 10-year defense pacts with Qatar and ongoing agreements with Saudi Arabia and the UAE as Ukraine leverages its anti-drone expertise. Now, to discuss the latest, we're now joined by Iryna Krasnoshtan, Program Director, International Center for Ukrainian Victory, who joins us in the studio. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, as you're here, President Zelenskyy is in the Middle East, in Jordan right now. So, a lot of these defense pacts. So, first of all, give us your take on how significant this is for Ukraine.
I think it's very significant, and especially at this particular moment. First of all, as you know, we have some problems with some of the support from European side, especially on the financial side. The 90 billion euro loan from the EU is being stuck because Hungary and Viktor Orban is blocking it. So I think it's a very crucial point in time where we can have additional resources coming from Middle East. These are all very rich countries who are interested right now in our expertise. They're also interested in co-production, which is also a positive sign, because basically our production capacities are much higher than the resources we currently have. So if we have additional money from the Middle East and additional possibilities to expand the production, we can get more drones and technologies for ourselves, for the partners in the Middle East, and you know, we will be able to kind of continue our technological development even in spite of the fact that we don't have this loan from the European side for the moment. We're still hoping to get it, but I think in the short term it's a good possibility, because the Middle East partners are eager to do it right now, and they have resources to do it.
Yeah, and also I think one is really critical there, as we mentioned already, drones. That's one of those new elements of the battlefield, really vital. We're seeing that a lot. Just interesting, I think on his tour, Zelenskyy has said that I think it's about over 3,000 drones that Russia's using against Ukraine per week, I believe. So a huge number, and actually just this week alone. Also, what's interesting, tell us a bit more. You said it's about key resource, it's about a financial lifeline for Kyiv as well. But how much of this integration now would also help Ukraine in terms of political leverage on the diplomacy field, if we're looking at that?
Yes, I really hope that we will be able to leverage that. But of course, as you know, these partners in the Middle East, it's a little bit complicated because they have had for a long time, since the beginning of the full-scale Russian war against Ukraine, they had a very neutral stance, as they call it. So they were trying to be also like in the role of negotiators between Russia and Ukraine. I really hope that right now, when they have, you know, Iranian drones that are supported by Russian side as well, being in their airspace and you know, attacking them, they are changing their position. But we cannot guarantee right now at this moment that it will dramatically change the geopolitical situation. But I really hope, I mean, we hear really positive comments from their side on Ukrainian expertise, on the teams of the experts that were deployed there, that are helping right now for them to improve their anti-drone capabilities. So I hope it will be a moment, but I do not think that it will change from today to tomorrow.
But overall, I mean, his whole trip is wrapping up now. How would you class this as a success? Is this business as usual, or how would you class now his trip winding up?
No, I think it's a really big success. And I mean, out of everything that happened recently with Iran developments, there are like negative implications for us. But I think this one is a positive implication for us, because it's a possibility for us to be seen as a really security provider for some of the Middle East states. So I think that we have taken full advantage of what it has. And I think that with additional resources from the Middle East countries, there are quite hopes on this side.
Let's also talk about, in recent days and weeks, we've had also the Ukrainian strike certain oil targets, critical infrastructure targets for the Russian economy and for the war economy. How much has that, in your mind, impacted Russia's ability to strike? Is in any way going to leverage if we go back to negotiating? We're not there yet, but tell us about the latest attacks and that impact on Russia.
Yes, basically, I mean, I will start a little bit on the negative implications. As we know, the oil prices are going up, and also U.S. has lifted some of the sanctions it's imposed on Russia. So basically, Ukrainian strategy has been to try to increase Russian capacities to sell its oil, because Ukraine has in the past week targeted several times key ports of Russia, especially in Leningrad Oblast, so on the Baltic Sea. And I think there are different estimates, but it is possible that it's up to 40% of like Russian capacities of export. Of course, I mean, we cannot say by now very exact numbers, but I think it will significantly decrease Russian capacities to fund its war economy, because basically the current prices gives Russia a possibility to get more money and fund more its military machine.
Unfortunately, we also had Russian strikes again recently as well in Kramatorsk. Sunday, 3 civilians killed, including a 13-year-old boy. Drones being used, increasing there as always. What do we make of Russia's continued strategy? I mean, it's still killing, structuring rather residential areas. What do we know about is it shifting at all? Is still the same tactic? What is Russia's strategy in all this?
Yes, what you mentioned, Kramatorsk, very unfortunate. We have had other targets in Mykolaiv, in Zaporizhia region, with civilians being killed and injured. There was also Russian attack on Odessa, especially on maternity ward. And last week we also had big attacks in Lviv, in other western regions of Ukraine. And when you mentioned the drones, and you know, one of the days last week, it was almost 1,000 drones that were in Ukrainian skies. I mean, it was in 2 waves, but I think that the number is quite dramatic, and that's where Russia is going. So I think Russian strategy remains the same. They want to terrorize civilian population. We've been discussing in the past how winter was, you know, how harsh the winter was, but still Ukraine survived that harsh winter, and the society remained quite resilient in certain ways. And Russia has not achieved such success, but it's still trying. So they're attacking critical infrastructure. There are some signs that it will be also attacking water infrastructure, because, you know, closer to summer. And they're also attacking logistic routes, which is also, they're attacking very often the trains, which is also a significant problem. We have had civilian casualties attacked in the trains. So, I mean, in Russian mind, they know that they are not gaining on the battlefield. So, as usually, they just want to demotivate the population, and terror is their best option, unfortunately.
And also, as we've seen, I want to tie these two together with the Middle East and also Ukraine. We've seen the Americans obviously very busy in terms of using a lot of their equipment, the ammo. There was that concern maybe that they would start shifting some of those supplies that are in Europe or on its way to Ukraine. Also with the G7 meeting just recently over the last couple of days, and Thursday and Friday last week, Marco Rubio said that, you know, being critical of the Europeans, saying, well, Ukraine is not our war, but yeah, we're expected to help. When you hear something like that, I mean, is it rhetoric? Is there something more? How does that impact Ukraine?
Well, we have really big concerns about air defense, and especially the Patriot, interceptors, because we understand we have seen quite a lot of statistics and how much they have been used in the Middle East. That's why also the Ukrainian president visits to Middle East and Ukrainian help with the anti-drone solutions is important, because you don't need to intercept cheaper drones with Patriot missiles, which means that hopefully there would be more in stock and not everything will be used on every Shahed drone. So we are doing this in mind also for ourselves, because, you know, the stocks are in certain ways, they are not that limited, but still, if the US side is been saying several times already that they will prioritize the Middle East in that. I mean, NATO has been reassuring that we still continue to receive what was planned by this Pearl initiative, prioritized Ukraine requirement list. But, you the problem is that at certain point of time, I mean, we are talking about the packages that were pre-agreed, but what if there are no packages in the future? It's a very serious concern for us, and I hope that this is still more the words that the actual plan of the American administration, because it also happens that they say one thing and then they may probably do other things. So far, everyone is reassuring that we still continue to receive, but the concern is there.
Mm-hmm. And also, I mean, one thing I want to draw attention to is as well, I mean, Zelenskyy in the Middle East, he also went to the UAE. I mean, if we're looking also at the city of Abu Dhabi, that has been the site of several meetings, also the trilateral. I mean, right now, where are we with this? Do you think that he had any impact there, being there on the ground in the United Arab Emirates, also talking about maybe negotiations? Or where do you see this realistically? Talks in the future? Is this realistic? Where would they take place? Where are we with that?
Yes, I mean, Abu Dhabi has been a hub for these negotiations for quite some time, and I know in the past also Saudi Arabia has tried to provide a platform, but right now it doesn't seem like there is, I mean, moving forward on that, because I think that we are slightly, the focus of the American administration, first of all, is being taken over by Iran, and then I think that still the security concerns remain, not for Ukrainian side, as you see, Ukrainian president doesn't have much problem going there, but it may be a problem for some other parties. So I don't see much progress at this particular point of time on the negotiation track. I think Ukraine has tried, and Zelenskyy even said that we are trying as much as to be almost a mediator in that. But the last talks we had with the American side was in Miami. It was just on the bilateral basis, and I don't see progress. Ukraine actually also wanted to have the leaders meeting, but I don't see in any potential way it happening in the near future. And without the leaders meeting, I don't think that on the working level we are advancing there. There is some progress. For example, there are some hopes that there would be another exchange happening of the prisoners of war, and we have had some progress so far on that, but it doesn't affect the broader picture.
All right, so we still have to remain hopeful, optimistic, but the battle, as you said, continues. Look, Iryna Krasnoshtan, thank you so much for coming in the studio, sharing your time with us.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. And thank you for joining us, and stay tuned to TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.